NFL Week 9 power rankings. So number 10, I have the San Francisco 49ers taking a tumble, falling down 7 spots. They lost a double-digit loss to Cincinnati Bengals, and they've lost 3 straight, and their team is just not looking good right now. Maybe Chase Young can rejuvenate that defense, but that defense to me has been really disappointing these last 2 games. Um, Obviously, I think their secondary is starting to get exposed a little bit. Their secondary is definitely their weak spot of the defense, and Kirk Cousins and Joe Burrow definitely targeted it. And their pass rush just hasn't been as good, and that's exposing the secondary a little bit. Linebackers are still good with Fred Warner and Greenlaw, but defense probably not dominant as we thought 3 weeks ago. And their offense, not sure what to. The offense is just I'm surprised how big of an impact Debo and Trent Williams made because without him, Brock Purdy just looks average. Threw a couple of picks near the end of the game and couldn't elevate his team. But their offense, Christian McCaffrey continues to be very good. Hopefully, once they get Trent Williams and Debo back, they will look better. But right now, they look horrible. At number 9, I have the Seattle Seahawks back on this list. A good, not great win over the Browns. The Browns do have a good defense, but the Seahawks, their offense to me just hasn't reached their full potential yet. They weren't great versus the Browns outside of the first quarter, and they haven't been that great this season. But we've seen them do really well, especially against the Lions. They just haven't been as good since. Their defense has been playing really good, so I do see them as a top 10 team, but I don't see them as like a top 5 team like a lot of other people are. I still think their offense has a lot to figure out, so I have them at number 9. Number 8, I have the Jacksonville Jaguars staying where they are again. I just don't find the Jaguars wins impressive. They had what 3 turnover against the Steelers. I know the Jaguars have all the talent, and that's why people are putting them in the top 3. But I don't see that translating onto the field, so I still have them at 8. Jaguars, Trevor Lawrence, he's been kind of slow this season. He's had his moments, but just hasn't been consistent enough, and they've been relying on ETN too much and only put up 20 points against the Steelers. I am impressed with the Jaguars' defense, though. I think they're really good, but they just haven't put all that talent and translated them onto the field yet. And I know people are going to say that once they figure it out, they're going to blow out people. Look, they're going to blow out people, and they already are blowing out people. And once their offense gets situated, they'll do even better. But I haven't seen that on the field yet, so I can't put them any higher. Number 7, I have the Cincinnati Bengals up 2 spots. Great win over the 49ers. Bengals offense has just been getting better since that game against the Cardinals. Joe Burrow was on fire, and Jamar Chase is wide open. And the Bengals, their offense looking great right now, like they were late last year, and their defense, Bengals defense, continues to be the unsung hero. They did well against the Niners' good offense. So I think the Cincinnati Bengals is coming back and they're translating onto the field. So I have them coming up 2 spots, going up 2 spots. Number 6, I have the Detroit Lions going up a spot. They pretty much should have blown out the Raiders. Good bounce back game for the Lions, but again, doesn't show us too much. Raiders are a bad team, but the Lions, their defense did really well. Goff, outside of that pick six, did really well. Their running game with Jamar Gibbs did really well. They do have to do better in the red zone, and that's their one blemish since Montgomery's been out. But their team, good bounce back game for them, but doesn't really show their team that much. The number 5, I have the Miami Dolphins up a spot. Another good bounce back game for the Dolphins against the Patriots. Tua was on, Tyreek was on. Getting Jalen Ramsey back was huge as he got a pick. And the defense, Dolphins defense, has been looking a lot better. Even against the Eagles, they look better. But like I said, doesn't really show too much about the Dolphins. We know they have a really good offense, and their defense is improving. But can they beat that a good contender? Number 4, I have the Kansas City Chiefs dropping 3 spots. They lost to the Denver Broncos. It was an ugly, ugly game. Um, Mahomes did bad. Their defense didn't did bad. The receivers did bad. It was just a bad performance by the Chiefs. Hopefully, it's just an anomaly, and the wide receivers continue to develop, which they were before last week. And their defense bounces back. It was just they just Chiefs just weren't prepared and they fell into a classic trap game. And number 3, I have the Baltimore Ravens going up 2 spots. A sloppy win over the Cardinals, but a win it is. Lamar Jackson didn't have a crazy stat line. He did all right. It was Justin Hill that won them the game, which is good because they have different ways they can win them the game. The Ravens defense wasn't as dominant as they once were, or they were 2 weeks ago. They still have a talent. They were just, I think they were high off that win against the Lions. I still think they have talent. Lamar Jackson's playing great, probably should be considered an MVP candidate. Justice Hill, or not Gus Edwards, not Justice Hill, just Gus Edwards with 3 touchdowns. And we've seen what the Ravens defense can become. So even though not the best win against the Cardinals, they still have a very balanced team. Number two, I have the Dallas Cowboys up 2 spots. They blew out the Rams all aspects of the game. Their defense sacked Stafford. Their offense was super efficient. If only they can get their run game going, that's really the only one bad thing right now on the Cowboys. I think they have a ton of talent, and I do see them as the number 2 team. And I know people are overlooking them a little bit. I do think that they can play well against and compete for a Super Bowl. And teams that dropped out, Buffalo Bills, they did win, but it was not the most impressive win. They let the Bucks back into the game. Josh Allen looked better, but I'm still worried about the Bills' defensive injuries, so I do have them dropping out. And number one, I have the Philadelphia Eagles. A close win versus the Commanders, not a pretty win against the Commanders. I still have questions about the Eagles secondary, but they're they're still winning games. Jalen Hurts looks really, really good. Their run game continues to be all right, not great anymore. But Eagles, unlike other teams, they find a way to win. And I do think that the Eagles still have flaws, but I think their strength and their defensive line makes up for it. And the other teams in this top 10 list have bigger flaws than the Eagles do. So Eagles are number one. So there you have them. NFL Week 9 power rankings.